Welcome to Just a Chat, choosing silence in the attention economy. There's a lot to be discussed today as we look at and host a civil, insightful discussion with you about this week's newsletter and the turmoil surrounding us. I'm going to highlight what the newsletter touched on for those viewers that maybe didn't read it yet. Some say we live in an attention economy where the currency is not truth or even wisdom, but eyeballs, a phrase popularized by economists and media theorists to describe a system in which visibility itself becomes value. In such an economy, to argue is to participate. To react is to be enrolled. To comment is more often than not to be pulled into the turbulence of the moment, whether one intends to or not. And my point in choosing this topic of choosing silence is to emphasize the relevance of the term choosing, because if we continue to make choices, then our self is not eroded, our self is relevant. But if we continue to just be swept along, to stay with one single channel, to live in a polar world of I'm either a liberal, I'm a Republican, that's how I define myself, or that's who I will be ever after, I stop thinking, I simply become a follower. I've lost my authenticity. And it would seem to me that the world today that's so polarized is begging for independence, is begging for people to express who they are, not who they have given up their soul to. So I lay that out as sort of our intro. We've got a nice audience today, whether it be Prince Edward Island or Salt Spring Island or Edmonton or Calgary or Camrose or Canmore.
Yeah.
So quite a week. I was chatting with Randall during the foreplay that I've been thinking through where do I go after this discussion about choosing silence in the attention economy. And I was reading the newspaper, and I get a couple of them. And when I got done this morning, I was wondering what did I just read? And before I was done, I'd had 15 different topics, none of which were relevant to what was going on in my world. It was Niger in Africa. It was Mozambique in Africa. It was the Middle East and the arrival of aircraft carriers. It was what's going on in trade and dispute with China. It was what was going on in Minneapolis. None of it, not one single thing that I read had anything to do. I have become a citizen of the globe, expected to care about events that have nothing to do with my more immediate world, because I care about everything. So the attention economy either demands for you or expects you to be a global citizen, caring about something you can do absolutely nothing about, other than read about it, synthesize it, feed your curiosity, want to know what happens tomorrow on the cereal issue, because you'll get the same material with a nuance differently in 24 hours. But all that stuff being radiated out to us. And then you flip between BBC, CBC, CTV, CNN, Fox News. You see 5 different realities. Every one of them is portraying its reality to you, and you can choose, if you do choose, to bounce around to try and get some sense of where do you stand with all 5, or do you just choose to shut it off? Am I the only one that does channel flipping? Gets more than 2 newspapers versus none at all? Reads every page of the
Yeah,
columns?
I get all of that, and
You do?
and the thing is, because I'm
But you've remained centrally liberal, Tom. I mean, I
I'm
try and portray
I'm
to you other
essentially
perspectives.
looking for the truth, like all of us. I'm weighing through I'm not a liberal or
Okay,
a Republican or anything like that. I
let me.
am trying to wade through my experiences in my life and figure out, okay, what am I doing that is useful and what isn't useful, and seeing if I can streamline it better, because it's just
Okay, well,
it's
let me.
overwhelming.
Okay, well, let me ask you a question. And I don't
Okay.
wish to embarrass you, and you're front and center, and you're on stage right now. So this is a TV production. Tom, has Daniel Smith ever done anything right?
Daniel Smith. I can't think of anything. I think
There
from
you
the
are.
beginning,
There you
she
are.
has been
There's your
corrupt.
filter.
Yeah.
There's your filter.
And really, I find her such a disappointment. And of course, today there's the story about her with the other premiers across the province, and she's just sits there very smugly looking on, destroying our province. So
Okay,
anyway,
so you have a perspective that is inviolable. You have the truth. You have found truth, and
oh,
nothing.
I, I know about her support groups and all that stuff,
Okay,
and
so
how she has to,
suppose she came to your birthday party, brought you a
yeah.
very nice bouquet of flowers, and
Hmm.
said, "Tom, I've been listening to you. I think you've got a very interesting perspective. I'd like to share with you mine." Would you listen
Hmm.
to her? Would you listen to her?
Well, of course, I'd listen to her
Okay, good
until
news.
the point if she starts blabbing about, separating from Canada and destroying our country,
Okay,
then I would find it very hard to stick it.
but she wants to be empathetic. She doesn't want to have an argument. She really doesn't want to push you around. She decides it's maybe time to leave the room. Being silent on her part might be the right strategy, but I suspect she would try to, when she goes one-on-one with you, to be empathetic to your perspective and share her own in a civil discourse. Can
Yeah.
she have a civil discourse with you?
Oh, absolutely. And the thing is, I can hopefully make some impact on her, but I doubt it. I think she's pretty fixed on where she's going, and if you can figure out where she's going, please let me know because I
Okay,
have
well,
no clue. One day she's using, turning our legal system over, and the next day she's
but
ignoring our medical system,
she's
and
been
so on and
pretty
so on.
she isn't ignoring. She's trying to fix the medical system. But anyway, she's made the point that she wants Alberta to remain within Canada. She's been clear about that.
Yeah,
She hasn't said we should be 51st state. She's not championing the separatist cause. She's saying we need to talk.
yeah.
Okay, I'll leave you alone. I don't.
Conversation, no, conversation is essential. Eh?
Yeah,
We have to
absolutely.
keep conversation going,
Well,
and it's the only way we can
that's
negotiate this world.
Bogdan Motok's been making that point to us from the very beginning, whether he
Mhm.
was on a ship, off the ship, or on the land. Bogdan is well known for sharing with us the importance of free speech. And I don't mean fire in a theater. I mean civil free speech.
It is.
Jeff Ulich, you just shared with us a video. What's that video about, Jeff Ulich, that you were just sharing?
It's actually not a video, it's a podcast. I shared it with you, Perry, and with Peter McKinnon, maybe a couple of other people some time back. It's
Uh, what's the message?
it's picking up on your comment about the media that you're exposed to. And what he does in this episode, it's like 13 minutes long. I just highly recommend it. He talks about our exposure to the media landscape and how different it is than, only a few years ago,
Yeah.
and also how the rise of social media has coincided with one of the greatest periods of wealth inequality in history.
Hmm.
That those two forces have contributed to the deeply polarized world that we live in.
Yeah.
We're more aware of our neighbors and the
Yeah.
wealth that
Yeah.
they have that we don't have,
Yeah.
and we're more aware of what's going on in Niger
Yeah. Yeah.
than we ever have been. So I just think this is a brilliant.
Yeah.
Morgan he's a brilliant and insightful writer. I've read two of his books. I'm reading second of his books. I read the first one. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
What
Um,
is this? What is the book? Sorry.
the first book he wrote is called The Psychology of Money,
Hmm.
and then he wrote a book called Same as Ever. And the book I'm reading right now is called The Art of Spending Money, and it's also excellent. Um, and he's a brilliant writer, and he's a behavioral. It's behavioral finance is what he specializes in.
Yeah.
Behavioral finance.
Yeah,
That's a good
and
one. Yeah.
he's just a brilliant writer. But his
Yeah.
podcast, he podcasts infrequently, but this one from a few weeks or months back really stuck with me, and I think he's really got his finger on something really important. So I
Well,
just
I mean,
put that link in. You can just click on it and listen to it when you have a chance, or copy it and listen to it. Did you listen to it, Randall? I think I sent it to you. No,
no, Bill,
no.
I think
Okay,
you put it in the chat, right? So,
I put it. You just copy that link
yeah.
and find it. It's two big stories that help explain today. It's just really excellent.
Okay. Well,
Yes.
I will definitely take a look at it. I mean, it's apropos to virtually everything we've been discussing now for 20 years,
Yeah.
which is the chaos and attempting to make sense of what the hell is going on. I was I was sharing with those of you that were with me a few minutes ago a perspective that I've incorporated into the book, drawing a parallel between where we are now as potentially a transition from one age to another. We've referred to the age that we're in right now as the beginning of the end of the knowledge economy, implying that we've been in a knowledge economy since the Renaissance, since the emergence of science to assist us in coming to know, which was the follow-on to the Enlightenment, which was the end of the era of faith and the emergence of the era of the importance of knowing, and that's the Adam and Eve a metaphor that I've used. So if we've made it from the Enlightenment to know to the Renaissance, which was how to know with science, and AI has now emerged saying it can know on our behalf and putting our purpose at risk, thinking that so many of us have lived in the pursuit of to know, now having an agent that says it can know for us. What is the age we're going into? And that's in a way what the book is trying to wrestle with, is to portray this belief of permanence that those in faith had and that those to know had. What is the next faith? Is it going backwards or is it going forwards? And if it's going forwards, when does it become apparent so we can end the turmoil of one age entering into another, as if that's what we're going through now? Oh, hey, okay, Peter, give us the answer to that very deep question. And
I
it'll
don't
be a
know
lot.
whether I have the answer, Perry, but knowing is one thing, but applying what you know or taking account of what you know and the other decisions you make in your life is another thing. And so if AI can help us know stuff faster, I have no problem with that because it's about applying what we know.
Okay, so if the world that we've entered into is simply a world that's better because it's more efficient and quicker, well, I wonder. It seems to me deeper than that. It seems to me that there will be people, and maybe that's the issue, will be split between those that become enslaved by AI and believe that it is an alternative to thinking themselves, and critical thinking is unnecessary because it's doing it all for us. And there's that other generation or that other element or that other cohort that says, no, no, I will remain in critical thinking. I don't any longer, I don't trust the encyclopedia. I don't trust the university. I don't trust even my own experience. I am living today and I will interpret what I see today based on my experience, but I am always authentic. I am always me.
Well, I think continue this using AI as the example, I think AI can add to the disruption that social media has already created,
Right.
but it still provides us with knowledge.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you got to think about what it's providing you. It's just like when you do a calculation on a digital calculator.
Yep.
You make sure you don't have an extra zero, or you at least question the answer.
Sure.
Does that make
Sure.
sens? Well, I think you have to do that with anything you take off the
Sure.
internet.
Well, and that's really
Read in
my
a
point.
broadsheet newspaper.
Yeah, and that's really my point is the process of choosing is one of the things that makes us human. It's when we don't choose and we become robotic, or
Drop out.
we fall victim to the party. We fall victim to the totalitarian critical thinking. It's at that moment that we no longer reveal what our thoughts are because we feel someone else's thoughts or someone else's viewpoint has more power than mine does. Hewlett, go ahead. You got your finger up?
Well, I was just going to say, Perry, one of the things, one of the ways that people react to stress and change
Hmm.
is everybody's familiar with fight or flight,
Sure.
but the other common reaction is freeze. People become paralyzed. They stop
Right.
interacting. They pull back and retreat from dialogue, from discussion,
Yeah.
from conversation. And
Hmm.
it's because they're waiting to see where the dust is going to settle.
Hmm.
Right? It's like a deer. When you
But
start
that's
the
but
deer,
that's that.
they stay very still and they think, if I'm very quiet, you won't notice me. The predator won't notice me.
Yeah.
And that's something else that is happening right now. People are holding back. They're withdrawing and waiting to see where is this going to land.
I think there's two types of freezing. There is one freezing to listen. There's just one freezing and exiting. And it's that latter one that I'm most concerned. I think there is considerable value in people stepping back and pausing, whether it be freezing or just making the choice to, it's time to step back. There is so much chaos, so much uncertainty. I've not been here before. This appears to be a moment of violence, and I abhor violence. So I step back to get a sense of what is really going on here and what choice do I really want to make, if any. Go ahead, Bogdan.
Yeah, I would have to go back before Ulrich's contribution. So the the issue that
Tommy,
I wanted.
hold on, Bogdan. Bogdan, Tommy, can you take that down? Thank you. Okay. Go ahead, Bogdan.
So the issue that I have, and I'm not 100% clear myself, but the issue that I have is this. Whatever the AI provides to us, it's captured from us. This is a major capture of knowledge from our species, from those who have contributed the knowledge into the public, and it's back to us. So I really do not feel that AI is something that supersedes us. It is a tool for us, the individual, from us, the collective. So, however, I agree with you that our species in the immediate will divide into some that will deify AI, will just give in and let themselves led by AI, and others, which might be much fewer in percentage, that would identify AI as a tool and they would work with it.
I had a conversation this morning, Bogdan, with someone working with teenagers. Said they've given up. The cell phone is their life. Facebook and social media is their world. They have given up. And I don't mean they feel they've given up anything of value. They think they've embraced value. They find that they're the world that they can live in safely and comfortably.
Yeah. Life in general is a sucker for things that are efficient, that require less energy, and are not a killer in the immediate.
Well, the things that require less energy may be being lazy. By the way, has anybody heard of Walt Whitman?
Of course.
Walt Whitman was America's first poet. I was watching a movie of his life yesterday. He was viewed as lazy. He enjoyed being lazy. He enjoyed looking at leaves and watching the waves in the ocean. It was not for many years before he found purpose in his life. But he felt that the world that he would live in was the world of nature, like Emerson. And that was the world he chose to live in until such time as he found himself and he found his purpose. Go ahead, Peter.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I was just going to add 2 points. What about your comment about AI and kind of the dumbing down aspect of it? I do agree that's going to happen. Like Bogdan was just suggesting, a segmentation in society. Uh, the other part of it, though, is that it's being used to actually make discovery. For
Yes.
example, I think one of the most incredible discoveries that AI has contributed to was the protein folding problem.
Yep.
I mean, this is absolutely phenomenal. It's taken us like 50 years to work on this, more than that.
Right.
And it was suddenly done within a short period of time by
Sure.
an AI tool.
So there's your efficiency theme again, efficiency of discovery.
Well, it's more than efficiency, though, because it's opened up a whole new spectrum of opportunity for treating diseases.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
that's why I have, and I say it gently, but I am of the view that that new age is the age of creativity. And what
Yeah.
AI is now able to do is not just take all of what is mankind has assembled in the past, but find a new thread that hadn't been thought of before. And with
Yeah.
quantum computing, I mean, Yogi isn't with us today, but Yogi is sort of my go-to guy when it comes to quantum computing. When you put quantum computing together with what AI does today, and it can make 1 million decisions in a second, you have power far beyond what we're going through today. That is almost an age in itself. Go ahead, Bill. I'd like to see your
Uh,
face, Bill, besides just your hand.
Yeah, come
There you
on,
go.
Bill. Give us a face.
All right.
Go ahead, Bill. Yep.
So a couple comments. So first off, what I always find interesting is, in particular, those who advocate for socialist healthcare, is the destruction of choice, and that I find that very peculiar. Trudy made an excellent comment in the chat. There is, why isn't choice an option here? And I throw that against Tom. Tom wants a standardized form, which is
Oh, I want a universal medicine,
sure you want.
and I would like to
In
see us
economics,
support it,
we only have two things. We either allocate resources by price, or we do by as they did in the war, where you have little cards and little stickers that you get so much allocation. No third.
Two-tier medicine benefits the wealthy. That's what it comes down
It
to.
doesn't benefit the wealthy. It actually benefits society. Choice always,
hit the daily limit for advanced.
and any removal of choice is a detriment to society. And I find that interesting. And Trudy made a very good comment, is we have a problem when scarcity is provided and a good is reduced to zero cost, it will be exhausted because there's no cost to it. If we all got the ability to have steak every night, we would choose that. But then the steaks would be completely consumed. And then we're now into a point of how do we allocate what is the remainder? And that's the point we are whenever you're between ration or price. Those are the only two ways to allocate resources: ration or price. We're in an economic situation with our healthcare that we're with ration. I mean, I read a horrible story where a man who needs a emergency surgery on his aorta gets delayed. Why? Because it's based on ration. The resources aren't there. He cannot pay enough money to get his heart fixed to save his life. And so I would throw back to Tom. How are you going to deal with this individual who, by ration, is now put 3, 4, 6, 8 months down the line to save his life? You attribute that, oh, only the rich will get it. However, this man cannot get it because of the ration economy we have in healthcare. And that's socialism, is there's only two ways: price or ration. In the Second World War, my grandfather was a farmer. He produced milk and butter and all those other resources, and he got so many coupons for gasoline, which was not enough for him to farm. He, in the black market, would trade his milk rations, which he had so much of because he produced it himself. He would trade that for coupons for gasoline so he could run his tractors and his equipment to be able to produce everything else. And that's what the problem with the ration economy. Allocate everything equally when the consumption of the goods are not. You need gasoline to produce food.
Okay, go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, with the system that we have, of course, it's really imperfect and it's been let go. from support. Now you say, okay, yeah, well, we can't keep going into debt, but the thing is that our population is getting older, and we are all going to be subject to one day to this reality that we have to face huge medical expenses in order to survive. And I've got so many friends who have got triple ailments. One friend, he's had 4 hip replacements, and he's now suffering from a heart problem. Now, the cost of that, you can imagine, is just phenomenal. And okay, he's wealthy, but he still is facing the life-changing effects of not having availability. Now you can say, okay, he's got the choice. He can go out there and delete his funding to the nth degree and be served instantly, and so on and so on. But look at, it's not going to work for us now that we've got this system and we've tasted the system and what it could be if it's looked after properly.
Well, I mean, the arguments that I've heard and that are disturbing to me, and Bill, you might want to pick up on this, is it always seems when we have a problem that the problem is attributed to supply.
Yeah, well, we have a supply shortage of doctors.
Yeah, and we need to have supply adequate to handle emergencies. In other words, I want everlasting life. And if you don't have enough services and enough supply to handle everlasting life, you have a deficient system. That is absurd. No system can be utopian in that manner. So there is, and you've acknowledged that, Tom, that no system is perfect. It can't do that.
Oh,
so there's going to have to be limits to supply. Now that's when the regulator steps in. And the regulator, with the public interest, whatever the public is, says there have to be limits. And my concern is there are advocates that want the system to be available unlimited.
Oh no, it's going to have limits, and it's going to always have limits. The thing is, our system has been set out in such a way that really even the most poor person can get good care. And that should be the fundamental basis that we start with. Okay, and of course, they're not going to get good care. Like I experienced the system, the 2-tier system when I worked in Britain years ago. And the thing is, I said to a friend, "Oh, I got to go to the dentist." She says, "Well, here, use my dentist." And her dentist, of course, overlooked Richmond Green and was really high end. And that was the alternative you had. If you had the right friends in the right place, you got that terrific medical system. But, the average Brit doesn't get that sort of treatment, of course, and I don't know how we compare to that.
My argument with you, Tom, is here you describe an issue within a controlled environment that does not address the issues that you faced, yet you want more control on the very environment that is shown in its incapability of providing your service. I find very interesting.
Well, as an outsider looking into this discussion, I want to make sure I have choice. And I don't think waiting is a choice. I don't like waiting when, in fact, I have when I have truly an emergent issue. I don't like having to wait. And I don't think that's fair. So I need a system that will giving me choice, that if I've saved my money and I haven't smoked and I live a reasonable life, I should have the option of taking my resources and applying them in my interest and my family's interest. And I find a system highly restrictive that says you can't do that. You have to be patient. You have to wait in line. You have to be silent. You have to be a patient as well. Go ahead, Aslam.
Yeah, so in terms of health and talking about choice, and in terms of having the capacity to deal with what the population requires, okay? The problem with government running a health system is that the government does not plan in far enough advance, okay? Because there's no benefit to them, frankly speaking, okay? They're seeking to get reelected, within 3 to 4 years. Okay, they want to see whatever they put their resources in and so forth, okay, to get reelected. Okay, example, okay, we did a study that 25 years down the road, what is the health system that we're going to require based on our aging population? This was 25 years ago. We indicated how many long-term care facilities we needed, geriatricians we needed, because at that time, 25 years ago, there were very few geriatricians, frankly speaking. Okay, so we said, no, the medical school should start educating geriatricians, because over the period of time, the baby boomers are going to age and they're going to need that. Okay, the government didn't respond to that. The regulators didn't respond to that. Okay, because it required an investment 25 years ago. Okay, that would have helped at this point in time. Okay, so that's one issue. Okay, second issue is that to be able to have, if you wish to call it free market system or a choice system, let's say, okay, then you need to be able to open up the market to having the health human resources available. Okay, so that means you either educate a lot more through our university system, or you bring people in. I mean, there's an ethical issue about that as well, right? Because you're taking it from countries that need them as well. Okay, but anyways, person can make a choice to come to Canada. Okay, and so, but our system, the way physicians, if you take physicians, is that our system has been built on not allowing them to come into the country. Okay, now it's changing. Okay, but 10 years ago, that wasn't the case. Okay, we still haven't adapted to allow. Okay, I had a conversation yesterday with the director of the physicians from other countries that qualify, have passed the test in Canada, but still can't practice. There's about 6,000. Okay, because there is this process that they have to go through. Okay, and they're qualified. They've been deemed qualified by the Canadian Medical Council. Okay, so there are these red tapes and so forth. Okay, I'm working with nurses right now, nurse practitioners, to relieve the impact on family physicians, especially in rural and remote areas. Okay, the biggest burden or block that the Nurses Association, the University of Alberta's nurse practitioners director identified was government red tape. And being able to get them quickly to do that.
Hey, Aslam, I'm going to interrupt. I like
Yeah,
to
no, that's
simplify.
fine.
I like this. I like to simplify, and having some experience in this
Yeah.
discussion and in my career, the issues that you cite are associated with a monopoly. Monopolies are quite comfortable retaining the power that they have, that has been granted by the exclusive rights of practice to a profession, or the knowledge economy that says that those in the know have the power. It's very difficult for a government to also be a regulator of a monopoly, because they are the service provider. How do they regulate themselves? You need a third party. Well, that's where the market comes in. It says, well, one of the values and one of the advantages of having a choice and a multi-tiered, if you will, or a system where choice is available, is it becomes the regulator in the interests of the patient. But the system of a monopoly is regulated based on the needs of the supplier. So to me, you build a monopoly when you have shortages. You pull things in, you get supply sorted out, and then you hand it back to the market and say, market forces, you can now regulate, and we will watch you. If the profession becomes selfish and self-interested, as opposed to in the interests of the patient, we'll pull that authority back. The system isn't working today because government, one, is a service provider and can't regulate itself. Two, very short-term minded because it is a monopoly and supply management oriented. Where is the power of the consumer? Where is the power of the patient located? It isn't. We don't have it. There's no advocate in the system as it is today in a monopoly for anyone other than the supplier. The power exists with the nurses, the doctors, the professional schools. The whole system is top heavy.
Yeah, but why do we elect a government then? Why doesn't the government take that power away if that's the
Why
case?
doesn't the government say, we have now built a system. It is now time to turn that system around for the very purpose for which it was built in the first place, which wasn't jobs, but for service. We do not have a system today that is service minded. We have a system that is built today in the interests of the supplier. It's that simple. That's a monopoly. And we won't break that monopoly until we allow choice. Now, the way you allow choice is you let waiting lists happen. And you let waiting lists build until such time as the consumer, the patient, gets enough power to say, you need to flip this system. The beauty of AI is it may be an agent of personalization. It may be an agent to empower the consumer to say, I matter.
Yeah, okay.
Aslam,
I'd like to get a comment
no,
from...
wait a minute, Tom. I want to get Aslam. Am
No,
I
no, that's
echoing your
fine.
sentiment?
Well, no, I'm not quite sure that I agree with you. You know, the fact is the government had choices, okay, and it did not act upon it,
But
okay?
why not? Why not? Why didn't it? I mean,
Because they didn't want to spend that money at that time. Last week, 2 weeks ago, I think you had indicated
it
that there's
didn't
a lot
want
of
to or
our
it didn't.
infrastructure,
It
okay,
didn't want to or it didn't want to or it didn't need to. It didn't need to. It
no, it
retained
needed
power.
to. It needed to. Their job is to look after our future.
Yeah,
Okay?
but they
And
didn't. But they
the
didn't.
But they didn't
system
do
is
it,
under
right?
stress.
So I'm trying to get you to acknowledge that they didn't need to because there wasn't adequate pressure on them to serve the interests of the consumer. They had power, and that power was retained because the suppliers were perfectly happy. The consumer's voice wasn't loud enough or strong enough to force them to spend what they should be spending as opposed to what they needed to spend, which was to satisfy the suppliers.
Yeah,
You
but the thing
And the
is, the
patient.
How much?
consumer at that point didn't know that we were going to need so many more long-term care facilities or beds at that point in time. Okay,
Yeah.
when you were 20 years younger, okay, were you thinking that we better build another 500 long-term care beds because I might need one? No,
Yeah,
you didn't.
well, I mean, we can play that game too because government may also be saying uh, systems change. Technology may emerge. If we make an investment today in long-term beds, what are we going to do with those beds after the aging population passes on? They faced that with the lepers back in the Middle Ages. They expended enormous amounts of capital. The system finally didn't have to serve those people anymore, and then they needed to employ that capital, so they started bringing in single mothers and bringing in the poor, and we went through that institutional cycle, and we continue to do
Barry,
it.
Barry,
Yeah,
Okay,
go
so if
ahead.
that's the case,
Barry, could we get? I'd like to hear what Peter and Jeff have to
Well,
say about.
thank you, Tom. I would too, but I needed to finish the discussion with Aslam.
it.
Okay, Shirley, your turn. Go ahead, Shirley. Okay, Shirley's disappeared. Go ahead,
Sorry,
Bogdan.
I'm here. I'm
Okay.
not sure I'm the first one, but anyway, my comment is I had the opportunity as part of a U of A program to speak to some medical students. And one interesting comment from their perspective is that it's very, very difficult to get into medicine. They choose people that first of all, are going to complete the program and they have a lot of educational credentials and experience already. So their comment was, well, if they actually wanted to be a good surgeon, it would take till they're 40 years old. And at 40 years old, are you actually starting to decline in any way in terms of your ability to be a surgeon? So this escalating credential problem is also a factor in why there isn't a lot of doctors, and that the educational system needs to change as well, and also to have more people enrolled in medicine.
Okay. That means either one of two things. We need to expand our training opportunities. We need to be set a lower standard for preparation, which is when we start bringing in practitioners, or we need to introduce technologies, which is a form of innovation. The system doesn't allow any of that. Go
Peter,
ahead, Bogdan.
could we hear Peter?
Tom, Bogdan
Yeah.
next. Bogdan, you're on.
Hi. Yeah. So you've mentioned government employee and motivation and so on. I've worked for 6 years in Alberta Health Services, 2 years as business process architect, and 4 years as business integration director. And I got laid off when I made the statement that government employees' motivation is to stay in his or her position next year. So government employees versus a private business employee have different motivations. And unfortunately, and I don't want to offend anybody, I've worked with very dedicated personnel, but as you know, I'm mentioning the notion of the culture, the stigmergy, the mind of the community, and the mind of the community of a government provided function is persistence in their job, not improvement, not I've struggled we have clinics that have 2-3 orders of effectiveness difference in treatments. The same treatment applied to the same type of patient with the same resources have 2 orders of difference in effectiveness, and there is no motivation. The interest in providing good care just melts into the culture of being in your job next year and next
Right.
year and next year.
That's supply management again.
Yeah.
The system is right now designed to be built. I have no issue with building a system, but at some point in time, that system needs to be transitioned into being operated in the interest of the patient, not in the interest of jobs and securing supply. That's my only issue. When do we make the system function in such a way that the patient is why it exists?
Yeah.
That's not what we've been doing.
No.
I laud the fact that Canada has built a wonderful product. When does that product get turned to being something other than an opportunity for employment or an opportunity or more supply? I was looking at waiting lists again. Waiting lists are an indication that the system isn't working. At which time is a waiting list such that we need to act on the because of the waiting list, as opposed to anyway? Go ahead, Peter McKinnon.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make a comment. I think it was Bill who first mentioned this in terms of red tape being a problem for nurses. In my experience, which is many years now of working in telehealth and telemedicine, my experience with nurse practitioners is that their biggest challenge is actually dealing with the medical professional, the doctors, who actually are constraining some of the capabilities that nurse practitioners have been given the opportunity to practice, like giving needles, for example. I mean, there's a variety of things that nurse practitioners aspire to continue to do as nurses, and they're somewhat socially within the soft touch enterprise kind of frowned on doing it. So there's more things than just red tape. And it's right at the ground level in this case. And I've even known nurses who had to hoard things, not because they were hoarding it to sell it or make any nefarious use of it. It was because the drug supplies in their national formulary and the storage of that material was in such short supply that when they got supplies, they'd hide stuff in all kinds of cubby holes all through the hospital. So they knew when the drugs ran out, they would have a little bit extra they could give to their patients. That's the kind of dedication that these nurses had for giving help in the health system. They were absolutely, and this is in the Bahamas.
I want to interject here, Perry. Sorry. I think Peter's exactly nailed it 100%. The individuals in the system are amazing individuals. They work beyond the constraints that are placed on them. I've had numerous experiences, experience exactly what Peter has said. And this is not an individual case. This is not the practitioners, the nurses. And yes, I've had some arrogant doctors, but I've had some brilliant doctors that have come and applied their expertise and talent to either solve or mitigate the issues of the medical system. This is a systemic issue at the highest levels that prevent these brilliant, wonderful human beings that have dedicated their lives to supporting and saving lives and making end of life tolerable for those that have to suffer it. And Peter nailed it. Thank you very much, Peter.
I want to share with you an example of the red tape issue and professional barriers. Some years ago, I had the opportunity to work with the dental profession in Alberta because they were going to close down the dental school, and my assignment as a consultant was to come in and see if I could reverse the decision. And one of the issues that we dealt with was tuition. We dealt with management. We dealt with research. We dealt with a whole bunch of things. But one of the things that became apparent was the value of what contributions dental hygienists could make to the dental profession. But the dental hygienists were under the thumb of the dentists. The dental hygienists did not have the authority in government or within the university or in the culture of the relationship between the dental and the dental. The dental hygienists were the slaves or the tools of the dentists. Well, one of the decisions that we effectively made was to free the dental hygienists up that they could open up their own private practices. That broke the monopoly. And as a byproduct, dental hygienists today, unfortunately, they're charging an arm and a leg. But dental hygienists are out there in the market today, which you couldn't get access to them before unless the dentist gave you authority. Today, you can get access to dental hygienists. You get service, you get it quicker, you get the quality that you actually need in your mouth. It's a considerable aid, which is what nurse practitioners could be doing in the emergency room. But the regulations are you have to see a doctor, regardless of whether or not you just got a pain in your ankle. Go ahead, Jeff Kramer.
So I think everybody can agree that there's lots of room for improvement. And I think a lot of the problems that we're seeing with waiting lines and so forth are because of an aging population. As an example, I probably went 30 years without having to visit a hospital for a personal medical situation. And in the last 5 years, I've probably had to go like 4 or 5 times for surgery and so on. So that is a natural thing of us living longer. Of course, if we lived 100 years ago, I know I'd be dead a long time ago.
So why is the system so rigid that it retains the status quo? And though we know an aging population is emerging, we should, as a manager, reallocate my resources from pediatrics over to palliative care. But the system is so rigid in maintaining the status quo because it's administered, not managed. Nobody has authority to reallocate resources.
I don't know necessarily about that, but what I'm getting at is the demand for palliative care and these other things has increased tremendously.
Right.
In excess of just reallocating resources. So because we have a larger aging population that require more health services, that means that the whole system has to expand. Now,
it has adjusted, Jeff. Remember, community care, long-term care isn't necessarily dedicated to an institution. Like I'm taking care of my wife today that 20 years ago, she'd have been in a nursing home. Mm-hmm. So we have resources today that have been reallocated. Home care and caretakers has occurred, Aslam. There is a system out there today working diligently to try and keep people out of an institution who are aging and who, however, can be cared for at home, where in the past the model was the doctor will get you a bed in an institute. Today, the dilemma we have, they're sitting in hospital beds because we haven't put enough out there to enable that option. Tom's experienced, he knows what I'm going through. Aslam, go ahead, comment.
Yeah, no, you're right. There has been a fair number of positive adjustments
Right.
just on nurse practitioners. Nurse practitioners in emergency departments can prescribe and they can admit patients in the hospitals. They don't have to go through a doctor anymore.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
That's
Okay,
very
good.
Yeah, so that's very recent.
Yeah.
Okay, within the last year or so.
So the red tape has been addressed.
The red tape from that aspect of it's
Right.
been addressed. Another red tape that's been addressed, and it's happening right now, actually, it's in the process, is nurse practitioners can set up their own private clinics, just like doctors can.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So that's coming more and more. The issue has been two or three fold. One is the medical profession's acceptance of nurse practitioners, as somebody mentioned.
Right.
Second thing is the public's perception of nurse practitioners, because they're new to the field, right?
Right.
We're still old and still wanted to go to our family doctor rather than going to a nurse practitioner.
Right.
Where in fact a nurse practitioner can do about 75 to 80% of what a family doctor can do.
Okay, so I'm hearing from you, as I've been hearing throughout today, that the system is in fact adjusting. There are some adjustments that are occurring. Does that mean that Daniel Smith is doing some good things?
Yeah, it has nothing to do with Daniel Smith.
No, I know, but there are those.
Don't bring her into this.
No,
if she had,
just a second. There are those that felt she should be blamed for all of the problems, implying that no adjustments are being made. And what I am hearing is that there is pressures being applied as a product of waiting lists, as a product of a population that's more better educated. AI is arming them. The doctors are telling me relational skills have become increasingly important. And if you have a doctor, you have someone in the system that can advocate for you. It is no longer just a top-down model. We are beginning to transition to one where power increasingly is being found at the bottom up. Is that fair?
Well, that's fair, but if you know, I mean, I don't want to get into the politics
Not fast
aspect
enough.
of it.
Not fast enough.
It's not fast enough. Secondly, the changes that we are seeing in nurse practitioners and other practitioners in terms of increasing their scope of practice.
Sure.
Actually started with Grant Notley's government.
Okay, but the beauty of what you just shared with me was the power of competition. The entropy that is occurring in healthcare is it's no longer just a single doctor. There's tons of specialists, and there are new professions showing up. The dental hygienist showed up, not just. We're seeing entropy occurring in systems as well, which is breaking down the monopolies. There was a hand up.
There was just one quick comment about doctors. Okay, doctors can actually practice privately if they so wish.
That's right.
Okay,
that's right.
They can opt out of the healthcare system.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And set up their own, and you can go see it.
I'm seeing
clinics. How many doctors
have
done that?
I'm seeing clinics around the province doing that.
No. How many doctors in Alberta have done that?
Well, I got one.
Three.
I got one.
No, three. That's it. Okay. So why aren't doctors doing that?
Well,
why aren't doctors saying?
Tell us why. Tell us why. Why aren't they doing it? Ask them, why aren't they doing it?
Well, because they don't think that they can get enough patients that will pay for them to make what they're making now.
Okay. I didn't know there was advertising. I think they're doing poor advertising anyway.
No. I mean,
so I have a couple of points. I just wanted to react to your comment about Daniel Smith and stuff. So you may recall the Dynalife fiasco where companies said, we can do it better than the public system. And so the UCP canceled the huge super lab that the NDP was setting up after spending close to $30 million on research and so forth. And then, Dynalife wasn't able to do what they promised.
In Lethbridge.
Well, the whole
system, only in Lethbridge.
Well, it costs $100 million for that little experiment, and I'll give you links if you want. Anyway, the point that I wanted to make on the bright side is that artificial intelligence is advancing tremendously, and that's going to affect healthcare radically. So I
If
share
if
in
it's
the chat.
adopted, if it's picked up, innovation in healthcare has not been one of their fortes.
Right, and I can give you a perfect example of that. Back in the early 2000s, I used to sell CAD software, and I went to a company in Calgary, and they were developing X-ray equipment where you could just do an electronic scan. Now it's ubiquitous in hospitals, but at the time they couldn't sell it in Canada because the system was based on photographic sheets. They had to store it for 10 years in a location. Anyway, it cost an arm and a leg. And the trouble is that the system is set up to say, oh, if you don't spend all your budget and you adopt a new, more efficient process, then your budget gets cut. And that is an idiotic system. They should be rewarding people who are able to do things more efficiently.
You know, that's your monopoly once again. You're absolutely correct. I mean, I knew that when I was in government. If you had a whole bunch of money to spend in March because the end of the year was April, if you didn't spend it all, you wouldn't get it. I mean, it's ridiculous. But it's one of the features of a system that is irrational and not held accountable for taxpayer spending.
No,
Right.
Go ahead, Peter. Peter, your turn.
it's a
Well,
system.
part of the discussion I think we're having is a distinction between culture and policy. So I would argue that there is policy and culture in the medical profession, and it's the culture that is having trouble adopting within the current transition in terms of new responsibilities that are being passed on to nurses through the creation of the nurse practitioner category.
So the culture is same old, same old. I mean, retention of the status quo.
Well,
That's the
it's
dilemma.
somewhat playing to your point about the profession is the medical side of it, the doctor's side of it is kind of controlling everything in between.
Yeah, and that look when you are built. I'm going to come back to the point I made very early. When you are building a system, supply is everything. When the system has been built or the system is not responding to the reason for which it was built in the first place, you either tear it down and build another one, or you fix the system. The system that we've been pointing out that we have in Canada today was built at a time when we didn't have services for healthcare. After 100 years, we have that system, but it's now focused on supply as if it's still building, and it's time to focus it on people and make sure that the incentives are for serving people. That's not where the incentives lie today.
No,
The government doesn't function in they should break the monopoly so it becomes driven more by patient needs than by supply issues. Go ahead, Bill.
and that's you nailed a couple of points there. The consumer of the product of healthcare is not the individual, it's the government. The government pays. That is your definition of who is the customer, is the guy who pays the bill. And so there's no surprise that our industry is focused on that particular client, which is the government, and not the individual. So we're not surprised that the individual suffers. You made another point about incentives. You're absolutely right. That's the issue, is the incentives here are misaligned. When you talked about government and the March, May, and I faced it too on the tech side, where government would buy boxes empty of computers to make their budget. And then, of course, we would supply the computers somewhere down the timeline to facilitate that. You've got a mismatch of incentives here. The incentives of government is not a functional profit, quote, motive of providing more services of value than the cost. That's not their motivation. Their motivation is consumption. They want to consume things at the maximum cost, regardless of the economics of the value of that consumption. And so are we surprised that our healthcare is crap? Because it's consumption model. And that's what we work. That's what we focus on. Is
we're in
consuming of our budget into healthcare, not its value, and that's the incentives matter, and we've misaligned so many things. And to think that government will solve this problem is misaligned. Government is not aligned to produce value. They're aligned to consume. And so are we so surprised that our welfare system, our every system, healthcare, everything that we have within government is constant consumption with no underlying value to support it.
Okay, so I'm going to highlight that with the following. There's a phrase, get them by their measures and their hearts and minds will follow. What does government measure today? It measures dollars, it measures every issue, it measures supply, but it doesn't measure consumer satisfaction. It doesn't measure anything that relates ultimately, even waiting lists are tolerated. At what point do the measures become measures of patient satisfaction, patient service? And I'll give you an example here. I was invited another consulting assignment one time to talk to the regional health authority. And I was given data by the CEO that he had never given to the board because he knew full well if he gave this data to the board, they would either one deny it or fire him. But he gave that data to me, and I didn't realize how the board would necessarily respond. So I was a little naive to the data I took forward. And the data was the primary reasons people were being admitted to beds in hospital. The primary reason people were being admitted to beds in a hospital. I thought, and he had the data, that it would be automobile accidents. No, seatbelts have resolved that. He took me through a list, accidents on ice, blah, blah, blah. The primary reason people were admitted to hospital was what was called therapeutic misadventures. What is a therapeutic misadventure? A pharmaceutical error, a mix-up, application of high technology without understanding just what the uncertainties are. So people were being admitted because we were failing them on the very principles for which the health system was built, was thou shalt do no harm. We were doing harm. Therapeutic misadventures were a byproduct of high-tech medicine, high-tech pharmaceuticals. All the high-tech innovations that were being brought into the system were leading to people needing to come into the system. The board denied it. He didn't get fired. That's a whole nother story. But we have systems that are not reactive to patient needs, but are very reactive to issues of supply. And so it's not surprise that the government rewards them for bringing in issues of supply, but doesn't reward them for bringing in issues of patient care. I'm going to leave it at that. I had the last word. Is that unusual? Tom, you're muted. I did that intentionally. Okay. Let me see if Arcos has been listening. For those of you that are still around, you know who Arcos. Are you still out there? Now be patient because I've given Arcos it takes about 5 minutes for him to process everything, but give him a couple of minutes. Arcos, can you give us a summary of what we've been talking about today and maybe come up with a resolution? Come on, Arcos, wake up. I've tested it. The issue seems to be it receives so much information that it needs to process. It's told me it will pay attention to only the most recent discussion, but clearly
Arcos is broken up, got some dots now.
Yeah, well, anyway, I'm still working on my AI agent to be able to be a member of our crew that I can ask it to do summaries and synthesis. That would be when it's truly an agent, but I can't get it to just hang on until the end. I need to keep it active throughout and that really wouldn't work. We're working on it. Randall, anything we want to comment on, Randall, as we're here at wrap up?
Well, maybe you want to repackage the conversation in terms of the original discussion on the attention economy.
Choosing. Yeah, we ended up
Healthcare.
Nobody chose silent on this topic. Every one of you who I have on my screen right now did not choose silence. So that's okay by me. I mean, Jeff Ulich would say this, we are a form of the new commons, where people come together without judgment. Although, Tom, you might feel you could probably criticize me on that. I think I did allude to making a few judgments here. But the whole idea of the commons was to create safe spaces where you could exchange information in the interest of becoming better informed. So thank you for making this safe space, all of you that are still hanging around. It's been you can shut off the recording now, Randall.